Hey crafters, it's Artsy Craftsy Phoebe, and welcome to another episode of our global Stampin' Video Hop. So this month we are focusing on ink blending techniques, so let's get started. For my video today, I am playing with stencils. I don't exactly know what this technique is called, but I am calling it a highlighting stencil technique. If anybody knows the real name of this technique, then you can let me know on the comments down below. Anyway, so we're gonna need a stencil. So this stencil is the leafy one from, what is this? Our basic pattern decorative masks. So there's plenty of good stencils there, but for today's card, I'm gonna use this stencil right here. I'm gonna need a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock. This is an A4 size Bermuda Bay cardstock, but I'm gonna trim it down later on. So I am just gonna tape down my stencil, well, my my cardstock onto my stencil. All right, there we go. And now for this technique, it's simply a I'm gonna use my ink blending brushes, but I mean, I wanted to up this technique up a notch, so I decided to use my Whisper White Reinker right here, and I'm gonna use my sponge dauber there. It's very well loved, as you can see, and I'm grabbing my block right here. Any block will do. All right, now I'm just gonna put a dab of this reinker. Now you can of course use your Whisper White stamp pad, but I find it easier to just use the reinker directly because I find it easier to spread. So now you can definitely sponge this onto your stencil as is, but I want it to be more spreadable, so I'm gonna spray it with a little bit of water, just a few sprays. You don't want this to be too watery, because when you sponge it onto your stencil, it will just smear all over, like under your stencil, and that's not the effect that we're going for. So just a few sprays of water will do, and then just mix that all up. All right, so I'm gonna sponge that onto my stencil. So as you can see, I'm pouncing. I'm not rubbing it because I don't want it again to just smear all under the stencil. Now you don't need a lot of ink. So that small dab of ink that I put on my block is enough to cover this whole piece of cardstock, as you can see here. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're done with that. Okay, so now we can remove our stencil. And there's our cardstock with the white ink. So nothing special just yet, but just you see, just wait and see. Okay, so dry this with your heat gun and make sure you clean your stencil after use. Okay, it's pretty dry. So now back onto my piece of scrap paper. I'm gonna put my stencil back on top of my cardstock. Okay, so right there it's aligned perfectly. All you can see are white spots, right? But I don't want to ink up on top of the white. I want some of the white to show up. So I want a highlight effect, if that makes sense. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of lining it up, I'm gonna offset it a little bit to the right. So let's see here. So right here, I'm gonna move my stencil a little bit to the right. So once you have an equal amount of Bermuda base showing up on your stencils, then you're good. Okay, I'm just gonna tape that up again. Make sure that it does not move on me. There we go. So now I want an ombre effect on this. So I am gonna use blueberry bushel, Bermuda Bay again, and crushed curry. I'm using my Stampin' Spots because I'm gonna do a smooshing effect later on as well, and these are easier to use for that blending technique. All right, so I am gonna start with my crushed curry. I have my blending brush right here, so just ink that up. I'm gonna turn it around, and I am gonna ink up this side of my stencil. So I'm making sure that I'm going about a third of the way of my cardstock. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to Bermuda Bay, right down the middle. Okay. I'm inking up the middle part of my cardstock. Okay, and then lastly is the blueberry bushel. I'm gonna use the same blending brush. I'm just gonna wipe off the excess of the Bermuda Bay. If you have a lot of these blending brushes, then you can use a different brush for a different color, but I don't have that luxury, and honestly, this is just fine. As long as you wipe off the excess ink, then you're gonna be fine. Okay, so the blueberry bushel goes right to the end here. So the last third of our cardstock. Okay, so now I want to go back and blend this out a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my Bermuda Bay. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to my crushed curry to blend that out to my Bermuda Bay as well. There we go. All right, I think I'm happy with that. Look at that. Are you ready for the big reveal? Let's see. Look at that. How fun is that? Can you see all the highlights on the leaves? Isn't that just pretty? So much fun, hey? And I like the ombre effect there. All right, so let's turn this into a card, shall we? So again, just make sure you clean up your stencil. So there's that piece. we're gonna trim that down later, but now we're gonna make even more mess. I'm gonna do the smooshing technique now. So I'm gonna bring in my piece of cardboard base. It's just a, I don't know, a chipboard. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you can use whatever hard surface you have. I have a scrap piece of white cardstock. And then I'm gonna bring back my inks. And I need a piece of plastic. So I'm a hoarder. I don't know about you, but I'm a hoarder. So I'm using this piece of plastic. This is just a, I think this was like an embossing folder packaging. So yeah, I saved those. All right, so I need the piece of plastic. I'm gonna put it on top of my cardstock so that I know where I need the ink. Okay, so I'm just gonna put some ink down just randomly. So this is why it's easier to have these little guys for this technique. Okay, now I don't have a spot for the blueberry bushel. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn this over and then just press on my ink pad just like that. Okay, I'm gonna spray that down with water. I want it a bit wet, and I'm gonna spray my plastic, my packaging, with some water too until my ink is runny. Now I want to remove some of those ink so that I don't make too much of a mess. I mean, we're gonna make a mess no matter what, but all right. And now I'm gonna put that right on top of the paper of the cardstock, and then just smoosh it wherever you want it to go, wherever you want the ink to go. Then lift it up, and you see there's more ink on my plastics, so I can just smoosh that back down. You can dry this in between. You can repeat this process as much as you want. Wipe this down. Dry this off with my heat gun. So it's not completely dry, it's still damp, but that's just fine. So I think I want more of the, of the blueberry bushel. I want some of the darkness to come through. Okay, and you can also just smoosh it like that. Now it's too dark, so I'm gonna spray that with water. There. See, this is really messy. But it's part of the fun. All right, so let's dry that. That's good. Okay, so now I have this piece. It's nice and dry. So this is gonna go. Okay, let's put these out of our way. This is go like in the middle, but we're gonna tear it because I want to go with that effect today. I want it to be shabby. There. All right, perfect. I like it like that. So let's glue that down. There we go. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna put a flower there. So I want it on this side so that that side will be covered up. Okay, I'm gonna put a block on top of that, let it dry flat. And while that's drying, I'm gonna show you. So to make this card, I am playing with my beautiful sunflower bundle, the Celebrate Sunflowers, with the sunflower dies. So what I did was I stamped a bunch of the sunflowers. So these ones are color. I stamped with Early Espresso, so you can see they're nice and dark, and then just colored them in with blends. But then for this card, I wanted it to be a little different. So what I did, this one, so see the difference? So this one's softer, right? So this one I stamped with crumb cake, so it's lighter. And then again, I colored with my blends. And then the middle, those dots, I just used my my Stampin' Chalk marker. Isn't that cute? So yeah, I think, because I have a lot of these, I'm gonna use this for this card, just to be different. All right, so I cut that out with my die, with the coordinating die right here. And I did cut 3 of those leaves in, what is this? I think this is copper foil. Yeah, so using this die. And then what else did I do? Oh, and then for my sentiment, I white heat embossed this stamp on a piece of blueberry bushel cardstock, and then I just trimmed around it. I just used my snips. So there are all my parts. I already put dimensionals in the back of my sunflower there. And then for this, I'm gonna use the, what are these strips called? Oh, other way, foam adhesive strips. And then I have a piece of blueberry bushel cardstock here. This is gonna be my matte piece for this. Oh, I glued it. So right now they're the same size, but we're gonna trim this down to, I want that to be 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm gonna trim 1/8 of an inch from all sides. And this one I need to be 1/8 of an inch bigger than that one. So this is gonna be 4 1/4 by 5 and what is that? By 5 3/8. Is that what that is? Okay, so before I adhere this onto my matte base, because I'm a hoarder, like I said, like I don't want to waste anything, so I trimmed out the middle piece. Nobody's gonna miss this part. Nobody's gonna see that anyway, so I might as well save that and use it for another project, right? Like, who's gonna know? All right, so So now I want my sunflower there, leaves over there. We're gonna make this a little bit simple because our background is already busy. So there we go. I think I like that. Okay, now I think it needs bling. What you think about that? I think I'm gonna use these are Wheel of a Time sequins. Well, that is my finished card for today's episode. How do you like that, hey? So again, we did the I don't know what you call it, highlighted stencil blending, maybe? I don't know what you call it. Again, if you know the name for this technique, let me know down on the comments below. So yeah, I highlighted the stencils and I did an ombre effect. And then we did a smooshing effect on the background as well. Right? Perfect. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, crafters. I hope this inspired you to start creating and crafting. Thank you for stopping by, and do hop along with us. Just click on the video description down below to find the link to the next video on the hop. And I'm sure you are going to learn a ton of fun techniques for ink blending. So again, thank you for stopping by. Hope to see you next time. Happy crafting. Bye.